Yes, y'all. From the Dave Campbell's Texas Football Mothership here in beautiful Lewisville, Texas, it is the Texas Football Today UIL Realignment Special. My name is Greg Tepper. I am the managing editor of Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine, TexasFootball.com, a corresponding website. Thank you for spending part of your day with us. Whether you're watching us live on TexasFootball.com, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, or Twitter, right?
Yes, sir.
Or you're listening to us on the podcast, which you can subscribe to on the podcast vendor of your choice. But I think a lot of you guys are watching us live because this is a pretty big day. Either way, thank you for doing your part to support your local mediocre internet show. Over there at the helm today is the Duchess of the Dorks, Ashley Pickle.
Howdy, team. Happy Realignment Day.
Happy Realignment, and sitting to my left, they call him I didn't think of a
everyone's
funny name.
favorite.
I was going to say like the roustabout of realignment, the ruler of realignment.
Okay, yeah, that works too.
Ishmael Johnson joining me here in studio. We made it in. The weather is hairy, but we made it in.
Yeah,
because this is a big day. This is arguably the biggest day in Texas high school football, at least for the next 2 years. And a lot of coaches are snowed in. A lot of coaches are about to find coaches, teams, players, communities about to find out their fate. The UIL realignments are set to go live at 9 a.m. We will have them up on TexasFootball.com as quickly as we can, and we will have instant reaction, instant analysis. We've got big name guests lined up coming up here on the program, so you will want to stay tuned for that. We'll be joined by Aledo head coach Tim Buchanan. We'll be joined by Wink head coach Brian Gibson, and we'll be joined by Rockport Fulton head coach Jay Seibert, plus Matt Stepp will be calling in to get his take on the realignment as they come out. But Ish,
yep.
It's a big day. It's a day of nerves.
Yes.
There's a lot of nervous energy in the state of Texas right now.
Yeah, by the way, shout out to the RGV because, of course, a lot of realignment meetings and kind of events are being canceled. Of course, a lot of districts are being shut down because of the weather right now. RGV is still kicking because the weather hasn't really, I don't know if it's going to hit them or if it definitely hasn't hit them yet, but apparently they're still having.
So we're moving the offices down to the RGV. Is that what we're saying?
There's nothing wrong with that.
I better not get any Parka jokes today.
Right.
Matt Stepp.
Remember, we're waiting till, if you're wondering, well, what are we talking about? We're kind of killing time. We're waiting until 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock is when the UIL realignments are set to go live on the UIL website. We will then have instant reaction. We've gone through a number of the paces. You can go to TexasFootball.com to see what we've got our eye on going into this. There are obviously some notable teams that are moving up, some notable teams that are moving down. The thing that I always look forward to in realignment is it feels like there's always one or two surprises. There's always one or two. I don't want to. We had Dr. Susan Elza, the UIL athletic director, in here last week, and I don't want to start accusing her of having fun, but I will say this. I do think there's some times when the UIL looks and it's like, shake things up a little bit. You know what I mean? And I wonder what I'm interested to see what is going to shock people. Do you know what I mean? I'm interested to see what is going to be the thing that nobody really sees coming. We've got everyone's got their mock realignments out there. Matt Stepp's got them up on TexasFootball.com if you want to get them for the next 5 minutes before they. Sorry, Stepp. It kind of becomes meaningless here in about 5 minutes expires. But there's going to be something that nobody saw coming, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, like because we know which schools are going up and which schools are going down based on the snapshot numbers, but of course placement. Placement just it could, especially when you get to the metro areas, when they could go kind of either way, and then you get to those borderline teams where some teams could go Region 1, some teams go Region 2, Region 3 versus 4, things like that. And sometimes, I mean, I remember a couple years ago, San Marcos went from Region 4 to Region 2.
Which is such a crazy flip.
Yeah. So, it's you never know exactly where, just because the team's moving up or down classification, you never know exactly where the placement just happens to fall from.
Well, and I've seen a lot of coaches on Twitter this week going, are we going to go north and south? Are we going to go east and west? And I think that's how a lot of them think about it, is you've got basically two pockets of options, and it's either going whoop or it's either going whoop. So it's one of the two.
That's kind of what's interesting. There's a lot of teams that are like on margins, and those are where we're going to pay attention. We've talked a lot about Lufkin, right? Lufkin, do they go north to play teams like Tyler and Longview? Do they go south to play teams like Beaumont in the Houston area, things like that? Do they go, teams like that? Stephenville's another example. Do they go west? Do they go back to Central Texas, DFW Metroplex? Those teams on the margins, that's what's going to be interesting. Another thing to keep in mind that I think is really important, I've been trying to hammer this home for people, keep an eye on regions. Okay, because the regions are what end up shaping the bracket. Remember that there are teams. The way I put it to a buddy of mine, I was like, think about the idea of flipping from the AFC to the NFC. You know what I mean? That can happen today, or flipping, changing divisions. Like if your Titans were to go from the AFC South to the AFC North,
right,
their whole situation would change.
Right.
There are teams that are going to be facing that right now. Everyone's going to find out their fate in realignment coming up here in about 4 minutes on the UIL website.
Well, another thing that you brought up that is really funny to think about too, when you specifically get into the difference between a possible like District 8 or District 9, like that's totally different sides of the bracket too. Like that's always something that I find the most interesting to look for is where are those teams that are kind of right there in the middle falling, because that literally shakes up the entire side of the bracket.
Well, and it's going to be the kind of thing where it's like you take a look at teams that are that like where the power nexus is going to lie. You know, we've talked a lot. A perfect example, I would say that when you take a look at 2A Division I Region 4, 2A Division I Region 4 has long been Shiner, Mason, Referia, right? One thing we've got our eye on, does Mason move out of Region 4? That's a real possibility just because of where they are. They're kind of in the hill country kind of area, kind of Concho Valley. They could move out of Region 4. Could a team like Marlin move into Region 4, which would certainly do things. How do those power nexuses change when realignment is announced here in about 3 minutes?
One thing I'm really fascinated by is the fact that, you know, it becomes a real conversation if this is the last realignment without a 7A.
Yeah.
You know, because that starts to become a real possibility in the next realignment, or at least, and very much so the ones after that if it doesn't happen next. So is this the last classification where 6A is, because we have some schools obviously moving up more. You know, we have a state champion now in Katy Pato moving up to 6A. So what does that look like if it is the final reincarnation of what we know as 6A?
Yeah, we don't know that 7A is not inevitable. We've talked with Dr. Susan Elza and folks at the UIL. They've said that they're still considering that, but you know, we will find out exactly what it looks like here in a minute. Talk for a minute, Pickle, while I plug in my computer.
All right. Well, no, when I hear, you bring up a great point with 7A, because that's one of those things that, like, in my time of covering high school football, I have not seen a transition of another classification. Obviously, it started off where just 4A was the biggest, and then 5A. And I was in school when 6A ended up happening, but I was young. And so it was like I haven't been able to see what that transition like. And it's very interesting to see how much goes into that, and it's really geography more than anything, to be honest, because all the big schools you look at the El Paso schools and stuff, those are some of the biggest schools in the state, but who in the heck are they supposed to go play, you know?
Teams on islands, that's something we've got an eye on. It is at 8:58. We are waiting for the UIL to release the alignments on Texas football, or rather on their website. We will then have it up on texasfootball.com as quickly as we can.
Another reminder, just real fast, if we go through this whole show and you're still a little bit confused about how realignment works, we actually put out a video last week on our YouTube page. You can go, it's How Texas High School Football Works UIL Realignment. So if this sounds a little confusing to you and you want to dive more into it and really understand what's going on, you can go to our YouTube page and see that.
There's a lot of moving parts. 1,258, I believe, UIL teams are about to learn their fate here in the next minute or so as the UIL realignment is bearing down upon us. And that was the talk when we were at DFW Coaches Clinic. That's what everyone wanted to talk about, because, I mean, it really does shape. It's crazy to say that, like, it really does shape what all of these programs look like for the next 2 years.
Yeah, it shapes what they look like. It shapes their kind of trajectory. It shapes careers, like it could essentially, you know, because you could go from, you know, if you're a program that's in kind of a need of a jolt, right, and the dominoes happen to fall your way, all of a sudden you become a playoff favorite essentially, or you could go from being a perennial playoff favorite to, you know, all of a sudden the battle for the top 4 is a bloodbath, right? And so it's always this is kind of the one time in, you know, every other year where everybody's kind of, not many things in this world are like in genuine surprise anymore, and like these are things that are just like genuine surprises to where it's the talk of the entire state for a day basically.
It's 9:00. We're waiting for the UIL to post it. It is due at any moment right now. The new alignments for the next 2 seasons of Texas high school football, also basketball and volleyball get around today, so shout out to them. I know you'll probably have something up on Texas 24 about that as well. We are waiting for the UIL to go live with their alignments. We will have instant analysis, instant reaction as of that moment. It is now 9 o'clock. It is the time that is expected. We are waiting for word that the UIL has posted the alignments. We will get into it as soon as that comes down. But an exciting moment, tense moments here across the state of Texas. This is the moment. It's sad we're not in Birdville where we wanted to be. Weather has prevented that from happening. But being in that room, you can sense those tensions. And I feel like a lot of coaches,
it's like the opening kickoff to a state championship,
especially at home, who when they're cooped up, a lot of them are home because of the weather. There's that kind of tension out there, and so we are waiting for the UIL to upload the realignments to their website. We will find out as soon as they come up. We will get into what the realignments exactly look like. So we are all waiting along with you guys.
Well, I guess we can say right now, too, there is a ton of people joining us, I think, for the first time. So we're here every day at noon. If you want to join into Texas football today, just throwing that out there. We've got a ton of people watching.
We are all kind of at the mercy of the UIL website at the moment. We are waiting for that to get uploaded here, and as soon as that happens, we will get into exactly what we see and what it all means. As UIL realignment is officially upon us, Thursday, February 3rd. It's now 9:01. UIL's late. Oh, I'm going to write a letter to them. I'm going to write them a letter.
I'm sure they would appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly.
They would see Greg Tepper and say, ooh, trash can.
Yeah, exactly. Trust me. My emails are already filtered to go out. We are awaiting the UIL alignments to be posted on the website. Of course, there is big weather, so you never know what's going on down there. And we have it. It is 9:02 a.m., and we have breaking news. University Interscholastic League has announced the new districts for Texas high school football for the 2022 and 2023 seasons. They are being uploaded right now on texasfootball.com. There is a ton to break down. It is a seismic moment in Texas high school football. We are here to break it down for you over the next hour and a half, going classification by classification. Let's start with what we see in Class 6A. Big headlines across the state in Class 6A. The biggest one, Cy-Fair ISD remains split across regions. There was a question as to whether or not they're going to consolidate into either Region 3 or Region 2. They remain split in District 16 and District 17. Hewitt-Midway has moved out of District 11, the District of Doom with DeSoto, Duncanville, and Cedar Hill. They have now moved down in with Temple, Pflugerville-Weiss in District 12, along with Hutto, who makes the move from Region 4 to Region 2. Big time move there for the Hippos. Dallas Skyline takes the spot in District 11, 6A. Dripping Springs is a new promotion to 6A. They will get quite a test in with Austin Westlake and Lake Travis in District 26, 6A. An all Katy ISD district in 19, 6A. This is big time doings there. All Katy ISD, including defending 5A Division I state champ Katy Pato. Let's see. Also, the Rio Grande Valley and Laredo remain split. That was a big question as to what this was going to look like. Was the RGV and Laredo going to be merged in there? They remain split. So, there you go. Ish, your initial reaction to what we see in Class 6A.
I mean, it's definitely that Katy district. I think you have you added a state champion, I should say, in Katy Pato, and so I think that having to consolidate them with, of course, Katy, with Tompkins, with Taylor as well, I think that was the immediate reaction because I was really curious to see where they would go, and naturally, of course, that works because you have all these schools now in 6A, and it kind of becomes kind of a frenzy.
It does. 6A is going to be a lot of fun. To 5A Division I we go, where we get our first bombshell. District 3 5A Division I, the Aledo Bearcats will face off with Denton Ryan in District 3 5A Division I play for the next 2 seasons. A massive move as Aledo moves up from Division 2 into Division 1, and they will draw a perennial power Denton Ryan in District 3. Abilene is going west to Amarillo and Lubbock. Big questions as to where they were going to go. The Eagles are making some long road trips to Amarillo and Lubbock. Another team on the margins, Lufkin, they are going north to East Texas and DFW into District 7 with Longview and Tyler, as well Lancaster, who joins that district as well. That is a real power nexus in 5A Division 1. The Rio Grande Valley gets a pair of districts in 5A Division 1, now making up more than half of Region 4 in 5A Division 1. College Station and Magnolia have flipped out of Region 2 and into Region 3. Big doings there as Region 2 and Region 3 have now shifted a little bit. Also, Port Arthur Memorial and Crosby are into Region 2, into District 8. Crosby, of course, a promotion from Class 5A Division 2. They're into District 8 alongside Port Arthur Memorial. 5A Division 1, Ishmael, is going to be a lot of fun.
You look right at Aledo, right? We've expected that to happen, and because of the snapshots and Denton Ryan in District 3, that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's not only moving up, it's moving up and facing against the Giant.
Yes, exactly.
It is stunning. To 5A Division 2 we go. Headlines across 5A Division 2. Corpus Christi, Flower Bluff, and Gregory Portland better get on their traveling shoes. They are heading to the Rio Grande Valley. Another pair of teams that were on an island. We knew it was a big mystery where they were going to go. They're going south, way south, to the Rio Grande Valley. Defending state champion South Oak Cliff is in a 10-team Dallas ISD district in District 6. Texas High and Marshall, East Texas Powers, have flipped from Region 3 over to Region 2. Remember, that's basically changing from the NFC to the AFC, moving to the other side of the 5A Division 2 bracket. How about Leander Rouse? They flip over to Region 3. They're paired with Waco area schools in District 11. We've got a 10-team San Antonio District 14 down there in Region 4. Fort Bend Marshall gets a big change. They're heading to play Port Neches Groves and Nederland. They're in a big-time district there in Region 3. 5A Division 2, a lot of headlines to digest here.
Yeah, Leander Rouse is the one that stood out to me because they went from a pretty tough district. I believe they played Brenham in a de facto district championship game last year. Now they go to basically being the perennial favorite, I would say, in that District 11 area.
Yeah, most certainly. To 4A Division 1 we go. Where? How about this? Both 4A state champions, China Spring and Stephenville, land together in District 5 alongside Waco La Vega.
Let's go.
My goodness gracious.
Go.
What a heavyweight district that is. Salina up from 4A Division 2. They're going to be paired with Dallas ISD in District 7. Speaking of Corpus teams heading south, Calallen, Toloso Midway, and Alice are all heading south to the Rio Grande Valley. Some traveling on the docket for those Corpus Coastal Bend squads. Brownwood has flipped to Region 1. They are headed west to Lubbock and the Concho Valley, out of Region 2 into Region 1, going to take on a West Texas district. Rockport Fulton. Coach Jay Seibert will join us later. He'll talk about his District 15. Pleasanton, Lavernia, Port Lavaca, Calhoun, reviving a few old rivalries down there on that South Texas area. Big doings in 4A Division 1. I think all eyes are going to be on 4A Division 1-ish.
Yeah, I think so. I think you of course you look at the state champions, right? Stephenville and China Spring. Going with La Vega, those are three teams that just are some of the most physical in the state, much less just Class 4A Division 1. But I think the headline here is definitely that area.
Those noticeable departures too. You've got 2 out of Region 2, 1 out of Region 4, and 1 out of Region 1. Those are big names that have run that bracket for a while that are leaving. So I think the departures are huge.
I've received word that the alignments are now up on TexasFootball.com. So if you need the alignments, go to TexasFootball.com. 4A Division 2 now. Another big shakeup. Oh boy, Carthage on the move to District 8, out of Region 3 into Region 2. Well, they will get Gilmer, Pleasant Grove, and Van across Region 2. A seismic shift in 4A Division 2. Keep an eye on that. Speaking of on the move, Cuero's on the move. Out of Region 4 into Region 3 go the Gobblers. Aubrey also on the move from Region 1 to Region 2. A lot of teams on the move across regions here in 4A Division 2. Glen Rose is on the move as well from 4A 4A Region 2 to Region 1. Wichita Falls, Hershey, and Graham are heading west. They are taking on teams from West Texas, most notably, let me pull it up here, with Midland, Greenwood, Snyder, and Sweetwater. A little bit of travel there for those programs as Hershey making the move up from 4A or down from 4A Division 1. And a very small Region 4, just 20 teams, including a 4-team District 16. There's a lot to digest here, and we're going to have a lot of time to do it, Ish, but for me, the headline has got to be Carthage shifting sides of the bracket.
Oh, easily, definitely that. And of course, I mean, for me, Cuero's starting to get they finally started to get their program right under Jack Alvarez, right back on track, I should say, and changing regions right in the nick of time, because they were really starting to emerge as one of the powers in Region 3 and now shifting over, Region 4, now shifting over to Region 3.
Yeah, watch for Lago Vista in Region 4 too. I think that's a sleeper that people need to keep an eye on there.
Mm-hmm. It is massive doings there in 4A Division 2. To 3A Division 1 we go, where another stunner. Both 3A state champions, Lorena and Franklin, paired together in District 11. So the two state champions will go at it in 3A Division 1. Remember, Franklin on the move up from 3A Division 2 to 3A Division 1. There are no other region changes for existing 3A Division 1 teams. Very notable here. Iowa Park and Vernon have landed in District 3 alongside Jim Ned. That is certainly notable. Iowa Park dropping down from 4A Division 2. Shallowater and Muleshoe are going north to the Panhandle. There was some question as to who was going to join the teams from the Panhandle. The teams that get it are Shallowater and Muleshoe, taking on Amarillo River Road, Bushland, and Shallowater in District 2. Corpus Christi London is heading north to District 15, where they will take on Edna and Vanderbilt Industrial. 3A Division 1, not a ton of changes overall, but a big one as far as one neighbor who is joining the neighborhood.
Yeah, Lorena and Franklin in District 11. And don't forget about, Cameron Yo's already in that district. We got Rockdale already in that district. That's going to be kind of madness, though.
It's going to be a lot of fun to keep an eye on. 3A Division 2 we go. A lot to get into here. Big doings out east. Dangerfield is joining District 11 alongside Wascom and Elysian Fields. That is an East Texas slugfest waiting to happen in 11-3A Division 2. Of note, Cedar Hill Newman, a private school state champion, is joining as a charter school. They're going to be slotted into District 7. They're in Region 2 alongside teams like Gunner. Edgewood has flipped out of Region 2 and into Region 3, joining District 9 alongside West Rusk and ARP. Division 1 drop-downs like Wall and Early have landed in District 2. That is going to be a very interesting district to keep an eye on, as those two teams have been powers at the 3A Division 1 level. What do they do in 3A Division 2? Speaking of drop-downs, Bowling dropping down from 3A Division 1. They land in District 14, but no soft landing for them. East Bernard and Tidehaven here. 3A Division 2-ish. Interested in your thoughts.
Dangerfield, Wascom. That's pure fun right there.
Yeah, New Diana.
Yes.
Woo.
Yeah, a lot to do there. Keep an eye on that District 11, 3A, and then 3A Division 2 as well with Ballinger, Brady, Early, San Angelo, Grape Creek, San Angelo, TLC, and Wall. On to 2A Division 1 we go. Another bombshell. Shiner and Refugio have joined District 15 together. District 15 2A Division 1 will feature Shiner and Refugio in the same district. Mason will stay put in Region 4 in something that we had a little bit question about. Were they going to move out of Region 4? The Punchers stay in Region 4. The Concho Valley schools have slid from Region 4 all the way to Region 1, like Cristoval, Ozona, and Sonora. Remember, they're kind of on that weird line where they could go Region 1 or Region 4. They will now play in Region 1 for the next couple of years. Marlin has stayed put in Region 2, but no easy task for them. They get Crawford in District 7 2A Division 1. Keep an eye on that one. Speaking of that Concho Valley, kind of greater West Texas, Central Texas area, Coleman, Goldthwaite, and San Saba have all moved from Region 2 to Region 1 as well. And the Brazos Valley schools like Hearn, Holland, and Thorndale have moved over into Region 4. 2A Division 1, the big shock there, 15 2A Division 1.
Easily. That four-way dance in Region 4 or that three-way dance, I should say, between Shiner, Refugio, and Mason have always just kind of been hovering around each other when the playoffs start. And now, we get to see that Shiner, Refugio game pretty early on in the season now. So.
Let's not skip over over the fact that Stratford, in addition
Yeah,
to this
that's
one,
gonna be
there's
a fascinating
we
addition.
saw them not too long ago.
Stratford joining there as well. That is going to be, of course, the defending state champs are joining there in 2A Division 1. To 2A Division 2 we go. The big headline here is who's not moving. Mart has stayed in Region 2. Certainly keep an eye on them, but they will stay in Region 2 on that left half of the bracket. A wild District 5 2A Division 2. Wink and McCamey have moved over from Region 1. El Dorado has moved over from Region 4. They get paired with six-man powers Water Valley and Sterling City in District 5 2A Division 2. How about this down in South Texas? Falls City is going to have a new district bunkmate, and it is Burton, a program that is certainly no stranger to deep playoff runs. Chilton and Bremond have moved from Region 3 over to Region 4, taking on with District 13, joining District 13. And you've got a pair of D1 drop-downs, Price Carlisle and Alto, paired with Tenaha in District 11. I would say that there's just a lot of movement, a lot of changes in the smallest 11-man classification, but Mart staying on that left half of the bracket is certainly one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and also you talked about, you talked about Region 5 with Wink and McCamey from Region 1. That's going to be something to kind of keep an eye on as well.
To the six-man ranks we go. 1A Division 1 we go. A couple of big-time moves here. Most notably, Borden County. Moving into Region 2, they get District 7 with powerhouses like Rankin and Garden City. State finalist May has joined District 14 with Jonesboro. How about that? Central Texas powers colliding there. Jonesboro, no easy task for state finalist May. A pair of move-ups from Division 2, Anton and Follett, are going to headline a loaded Region 1 that includes teams like Turkey Valley, who's in District 4 with Spur. Defending state champion Westbrook is going to join Hermley in District 8. Keep an eye on that. And remember, you got one drop down here in Menard, one pretty notable drop down in Menard. They're dropping down from 2A Division 2 into the 1A Division 1 ranks, plus teams like Anton, Follett, and Gordon go on as well. To 1A Division 2 we go, the smallest classification in the UIL. How about this? Defending state champ Strawn is flipping sides of the bracket.
Wow.
They are into Region 4. That is going to be a big power shift in how 1A Division 2 gets going. Throckmorton moves into Region 3 from Region 2. The Far West Texas District with Balmorhea and Sanderson gets moved from Region 1 into Region 2. Oakwood has moved into Region 3. That's perfectly notable. That's pretty notable as well. And then keep an eye on this one. There was a lot of changeover here in 1A Division 2. We know that the smallest classification it can be like that, but 25 of the 64 existing Division 2 teams switch regions. That's the highest percentage in any class. All the alignments are up right now on TexasFootball.com. You can see where your team landed and what your team's district is going to look like for the next 2 seasons in Texas high school football. We've got big-name guests coming up. We're going to be joined by Aledo head coach Tim Buchanan. He will talk about their move into a district with Denton Ryan. We'll be talking with the head coach of the Wink Wildcats. Coach Brian Gibson will join us to talk about his Wild District 5 2A Division 2. And then we'll talk with the head coach of the Rockport Fulton Pirates. Coach Jay Seibert will join us later in the program to talk about his program moving up to 4A Division 1, but a program that that's been no stranger to deep playoff runs. But for now, it's realignment season, and there's nobody who would rather be talking realignment than Matt Stepp, who joins us live from Canada. Stepp, it's cold down here. I imagine it's colder up there.
Yes, the snow plows are out. We had a little snow last night, and we're it's Canada. What do you expect, right?
You've got the alignments. You've seen what the UIL has done in the 2020-22 UIL realignment. I'm interested. What is your headline from what you're seeing from these alignments?
I'm really there's a lot of really interesting nuggets, and I've only been able to dig into them for about 18 minutes, but I've jotted down a few quick notes. I think in 6A, especially in the Metroplex, there wasn't a ton of change. It was pretty chalky. The UIL, in something that I think is rare, kind of stuck with what they did last year for the most part, minus a few changes here and there. I think in 6A, the biggest thing that stands out to me is Region 4 with the multiple 16 districts. I mean, you've got a couple of 10-team districts there in Metro San Antonio. And then you go, outside of San Antonio, you got 2 16 districts in the South Texas, and then a 16 district in Metro San Antonio. That actually works out really well for West Texas, because I think that third 16 district in Region 4, the Steele Judson district, gives the Far West Texas district a reasonable scheduling partner to schedule those fourth and fifth non-district games. So I imagine if you're Clint Hartman at Midland Legacy or Dusty Ortiz at Odessa High, you're pretty happy about a reasonable scheduling partner to try to find those last two non-district games.
I'm interested as far as what has really surprised you? What in looking over these for the last 19 minutes or so, what has really surprised you about this particular alignment?
Aledo and Denton Ryan being in the same district, I think, is really a surprise. Did not see that one coming at all, but that's gonna be a lot of fun. And you look at a team like Azle, you got to be just looking at looking at realignment and shaking your head. You thought you might have one of them, but now you got to deal with both of them in districts. So that's going to be a challenge. I think East Texas moving over to Region 2 and 5A Division 2 was a bit of a surprise for me. I think we expected the state champions in 4A and 3A to be paired together, so that was not a huge surprise. I think we both predicted that in some of our mocks. I think in Graham and Wichita Falls Hershey, you look in 4A Division 2, Graham and Wichita Falls Hershey having to travel all the way to Midland for district games. That was something I did not see coming. That was a huge surprise when I saw that. I thought there was a chance that Snyder and maybe Sweetwater would go with Graham and Hershey, but I did not think Greenwood would get thrown into that as well. So that's really going to increase the travel budget there. And then, Carthage moving to Region 2 was a stunner. I thought Carthage was locked into Region 3 once again, so that was a surprise. If you look at 3A Division 1, a rarity in 3A Division 1, a 9-team district in 3A Division 1. You don't usually see that, and that's District 7. It's Grandview is in there, and then you have several of the Dallas charter schools that have recently started playing football. So you don't see those 9-team districts in the smaller levels very much. And I think the other thing, the UIL, talking to Dr. Elza, they had, we talked about 14 districts and that kind of thing. And I think the UIL made a real effort to try to not have 14 districts as much as possible. And you look at it on the whole, and unless I missed one, I only count 2 14 districts in the entire realignment. And that's District 16 4A Division 2 and District 1 3A Division 2. And those are on the far extremes in the state of Texas. So I'll be interested to see how those two districts tackle their non-district schedule, because trying to find 7 non-district games is going to be really, really challenging. So I think the UIL did a great job in trying to limit the 14 districts as much as possible, because no one likes those.
All right, let me ask you another question here. As far as when we're taking a look at the UIL realignments, you can find them up on TexasFootball.com right now. There's going to be a lot of talk about state champions paired together, with most notably 5-4A Division 1 with Stephenville and China Spring in the same district, and then in, I believe 11-3A Division 1 with Lorena and Franklin in the same district. Do either of those surprise you as much of maybe a shock as it is?
No, I won't pat myself on the back too much, because I got a lot of things wrong in my mock realignment, but I did get those right. I did have Stephenville and China Spring paired to the same district, and I did have Lorena and Franklin paired to the same district. What surprised me in 4A Division 1 was Brownwood not being included in that district. They got shipped further west into a real travel district there with Lubbock Estacado, San Angelo, Lakeview, Big Spring, and Andrews. That's a long road trip for Brownwood to have to go to Andrews and Lubbock. The Lions are going to be putting some miles in. So that was the surprise when looking at 4A Division 1, was not Stephenville and China Spring being together, but Brownwood not being paired with Stephenville. I'm assuming those two are going to find a way to play in non-district, though.
Talking with Matt Stepp here, our Dave Campbell's Texas Football High School Football Insider here on Texas Football Today, UIL Realignment Special. Get involved in the conversation, #TF Today. Let me ask you, Stepp, there's, of course, big-time changes as far as classifications are concerned. I'll start with this question. Is there any, you mentioned Aledo in with Denton Ryan. We're going to talk with Tim Buchanan coming up here in just a few minutes. I'm interested, are there teams that are either moving up or moving down that you think had a pretty hard landing into their new classification? Are there any teams that changed classifications that you think got a pretty darn tough draw?
I would say for sure Cleveland. This is a team that's really grown really quickly and has struggled even in Class 5A. And now you look at it, and now they're in a district with the Woodlands, College Park, a vastly improving New Caney squad, and a brand new Grand Oaks squad that's fared pretty well their first couple of years in 6A. So for me, Cleveland and also Waller. You look at Waller, and they got thrown in with with the Klein schools and the Tomball schools. 2 years ago, Tomball Memorial had a great run to the third round of the playoffs, and last year Tomball gets to go to the semifinals. And then you always have Klein Oak and Klein Kane and Klein Collins, always very, very tough opponents as well. So I would say Cleveland and Waller right off the bat, just at first glance, had a pretty hard landing. Just with the way things went. I think if you look at softer landings, I think if I'm Argyle, I'm really happy with this alignment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're moving up to Class 5A, but I think they got a pretty good draw. Carrollton, Creekview, the Frisco schools, Lake Dallas, Denton. I think if I'm Todd Rogers, I'm really pleased with this alignment because I think it's going to allow them a chance to adjust to Class 5A very quickly and have some success, especially being in Region 1. You look at 5A Division 2, Region 1, I mean, why not? Argyle could very easily be one of the favorites in this region because you look at the region top to bottom, there's not a lot of powerhouses in that region. So I think if you look at a softer landing, I think the first one that jumps to mind is Argyle.
Argyle, I would say, is certainly a soft landing, although they will have to deal with teams like Wichita Falls Rider, Grapevine, Colleyville Heritage at some point. I look at a team like Highland Park. Highland Park moving up to Class 6A, they land in with the Irving schools and the Richardson schools. That feels like a pretty soft landing as well, as far as, they could have got sent to Rockwall. They could have got sent a few different places. Landing there seems tough. I would also throw out there, one thing I think is interesting, Step, and we'll break this down a lot on Tep and Step, our premium high school football podcast, which we're recording a little bit later today. I think what you saw in 5A Division 1 with a bit of an abandoned ship in Region 2 is very interesting. That Denton Ryan is out. College Station is out. A&M Consolidate, was already a D2 school. But those programs, they've kind of bailed out of Region 2. In comes teams like Port Arthur, Memorial, and Crosby. But I would say that maybe the power 5A Division 1 Region 2 is no longer the power nexus that it was in the last alignment.
No, I think the power at the top of the bracket has shifted over to Region 1 because you've got, obviously, Aledo and Denton Ryan. I think Abilene High is going to be a factor in the region. You've already got Tascosa and Lubbock Coronado out there in West Texas. And I think a team like Killeen Shoemaker and Lake Belton will be teams to be accounted for. Lake Belton's a new school, but they've got a lot of talent, and they've been successful early on. I think Lake Belton is a team that could have some early success a la Shadow Creek, Peyto in recent years. So it is a little weird for me to look at a regional alignment and see LaPorte in Region 2, not going to lie. Yeah. But that's just the way things have shifted because you look down at Region 4 and you look at Region 4 in 5A Division 1 and you've got, I think we've talked about this a few times, the Rio Grande Valley, a team like Edinburgh Vela could easily win Region 4. Yeah. When you look at the setup in Region 4, Edinburgh Vela is going to be a team that you really have to account for in Region 4 because of the setup. I mean, you look at Bernie Champion's a Region 3 school now. When have we ever considered Bernie a team that's in Region 3 or San Antonio MacArthur that's in Region 3? So very interesting setup in 5A Division 1 with the shift in demographics and the shift in schools and where the growth patterns are in the state of Texas.
A couple more questions. There were some tweeners kind of in between regions that we were wondering where exactly they would land. One of them is Abilene going out west. They're going to land with the Lubbock schools and the Amarillo schools. Another one is Lufkin. Lufkin going north to John Tyler, Tyler, got to get used to that, and Longview, as well as teams like McKinney North there as well. I'm interested if those teams that we've been kind of keeping an eye on because they're always in that, another team was Mason. Mason, we wondered if they were going to move out of Region 4 into 2A Division 1. Did any of those catch you by surprise?
So Abilene, I think I picked Abilene to go west into the Metroplex, but I'm not totally surprised. Go east into the Metroplex. So I'm not totally surprised that they went west, though. It was kind of a 50-50 deal. I guess wrong. They had them going east into the Metroplex, but not a huge surprise there. I projected Lufkin to be in the Metroplex. I just didn't think there was room in Houston for Lufkin, and if you look at the three Houston districts in 5A Division 1, there's really not room for them. They're all big districts. So I thought Lufkin was pretty much a lock to go back with into the Metroplex and with Longview and Tyler. I am very surprised McKinney North was thrown into that district because from McKinney to Lufkin is a haul, and there's not really an easy way to get there. So I think if you're looking at someone who drew a short straw from a travel standpoint in 5A Division 1, it's probably McKinney North. I was very surprised by that.
Yeah.
And I'm a little surprised that College Station and A&M Consolidated went into Austin. It's not unreasonable from a travel standpoint, but I thought College Station and A&M Consolidated might kind of be more with the North Houston schools. And so looking at them in District 11, 5A Division I, a little surprised that they got aligned with the Austin area. But that's going to make for a fun district when you have because College Station and A&M Consolidated, Cedar Park, Georgetown, rapidly improving Eastview, and Hendrickson and Glenn are always teams to keep an eye on as well. So I think that district's going to be a really fun one to watch there in Region 3.
Finally, a question from a viewer. We're interested if, you put your mock realignments up on TexasFootball.com, but you're also, you're trying to project it right, but you're also a fan, and you're a fan of good Texas high school football. Is there anything that you were maybe hoping would happen from just a quality of play, I'm interested in seeing that perspective that didn't?
That's a great question. I would say I was kind of hoping that just from a storyline standpoint that Highland Park might get sent south into the Duncanville DeSoto district. Just from I think the storylines there would be really rich. So a little surprised. I mean, a little disappointed that didn't happen. Even though I'm not surprised that Highland Park, geographically, their alignment makes a lot of sense. So from that standpoint, maybe a little bit disappointed on that one. I think the thing I'm most disappointed for is I feel bad for the north side and northeast schools in San Antonio. Those 10-team districts are really tough, and I was hoping the UIL would find a way to split them up a little more evenly, but unfortunately for those schools it didn't happen. So you're going to have I think some real quality teams in District 28 and 29 that are out of the playoff mix just because of the size of those districts.
He's Matt Stepp. You can, of course, get more of his insights on Tep and Step, our premium high school football podcast, coming up here a little bit later today. We're going to sit there and talk for hours and hours and hours about realignment. That's going to go up on TexasFootball.com. And, of course, you can see his insights on TexasFootball.com. We'll be breaking it down all offseason. Stepp, appreciate your time. Stay warm, my friend.
You guys be good. Don't work too hard.
Well, that's already we're already here. We drove through the snow to get here. This is the Texas Football Today, Dave Campbell's Texas Football UIL Realignment Special, brought to you by our friends at Hometown Ticketing. So go to hometownticketing.com. We appreciate them being the sponsor of the Dave Campbell's Texas Football UIL Realignment coverage. There's a lot to get to, a lot to dive into here in UIL Realignment. We're not going to get it all done today. We're probably not going to mention all 1,253 teams today, but I think Stepp hit on a few really interesting things there. Most notably, he mentioned San Antonio. I think we think of these teams like when you're in like a 10-team district or something, we're just like, oh, okay, well, that's a quirk, but it has major ramifications as far as only 40% of the teams are going to make the playoffs, and those teams are kind of starting from behind in a little bit of a way.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that he mentioned was that Cedar Park district, with A&M Consolidated and College Station going to Austin, which was already a tough district. I guess I think that district lost Manor and I guess added those two. I'm trying to think of the other program that they might have lost, but that's a lot of fun. That is going to, as somebody who grew up on Central Texas football, adding those two schools in there, a little bit of an east drive for some of those Central Texas programs. That's going to be a ton of really competitive, I'd say, especially when it gets to the top, because it's kind of been Cedar Park as the perennial favorite, and now you add two teams that are very capable of kind of taking control of that. That's going to be one of the more competitive
Marquise
ones.
Collins was a junior, just throwing that back out there one more time.
Coming back.
Yeah, coming back.
Rolling it back.
Coming back. A team that we never worry about being back is the Aledo Bearcats. They have gotten a big realignment shift today into 5A Division I, into District 3 5A Division I, with a number of great teams, including Denton Ryan. We're pleased to be joined on the phone lines by the head coach of the Aledo Bearcats. It is Coach Tim Buchanan. Coach, thanks for your time. I know that today is a bit of a hectic day, but I'm interested in your initial reaction to what we're seeing for your Bearcats.
Well, first of all, Carpal Dia and none of those you sports writers know what you're doing, because nobody had this district picked right.
That is 100% true, Coach. We obviously don't know what we're talking about.
No, it should be fun. It's a first. I've been here for 29 years. We've never been in a district with Denton Ryan or the Colony, but it should be exciting. It should be a lot of fun.
So I guess that's maybe a decent place to start. Obviously, us yahoos in the media didn't see this coming. Was this something that you had even fathomed, or was this when the alignments came out at 9:00, were you pretty gobsmacked?
All around the coach's office, we had talked about it and said it could happen, but of course, that was one coach would say it, and the other one would say, no way. And I'm sitting there, well, it could happen. But the one that really shocked me, it's not so much Denton Ryan, but the Colony coming all the way down with us.
Yeah, Coach, it's the program's first move up in realignment since 2002. Does the message or the mindset change? You know, you're one of the most prestigious programs, winningest programs in the state. Does that change despite moving up?
Well, I mean, you know that you're getting ready to play, bigger schools, and the good thing about it is, in Division II, we were having a hard time finding, freshman games and JV games, 2 JV games and stuff like that. We're thinking, okay, it's going to be a lot easier for our sub-varsities, but the competition level at the varsity level is going to be better. And I think I already heard y'all talking about the district win streak and those type of things. But heck, it's football and it's going to be fun. It's what we look forward to.
Coach, it was no secret that you guys were moving up. When the cutoff numbers came out, it was known that Aledo going to be a 5A Division I program. I'm interested in what the feeling around from your players and around the program is about that, because you guys have never shied away from a challenge. Here comes a challenge. Moving up in classification. What are you hearing from your players and from people around the program?
No, they don't blink an eye about it. They're just come to work every day and work hard. It doesn't matter if we're in Division I, but we played in Division I before, but not since they've gone to the split divisions. Heck, our first state championship was a Division I 3A game. And then Coach Wood won one in Division I. So it's not that big a change. Heck, we played in Division I, before they added the 6A number to it, so it's not that big a deal. I mean, we were playing Coppers Cove when they had 2,200 kids and we had 1,100. So it's just part of football and part of Texas. We live in a big state. So it's I don't want to be those guys in Austin trying to figure out who goes into what district and what classification.
I'm not trying to date you here, Coach, but this is not your first realignment. I'm interested. When you woke up this morning, what were the feelings? What were the emotions? Do you get nervous on realignment days, or is it just another day?
Not anymore. I used to lose sleep over it and sit there and draw districts up and all that stuff. And heck, I got up this morning, got me a cup of coffee, and started trying to figure out what district we're in. Now, it was a surprise that we went into a 9-team district, but with the 0 week, at first I was sitting there going, "Oh crud, our second district game is going to be in the middle of somewhere in there," but not anymore. With 0 week, we can play week 0, week 1, and then go right into district.
Coach, I want to ask you a little bit about your 2021 Bearcats. Another 12-win season for you guys. You guys end up running into eventual state champ South Oak Cliff there in the regional semifinals. The standard there at Aledo is so high. I'm interested when you look back on the 2021 season. What are you going to remember about it? How are you going to remember that 2021 year?
Well, first of all, 12-1 is a pretty dang good season. So try to make sure those kids realize that they had a good football season and that it wasn't a losing season. No, we did not win the state championship, and we got beat by a really, really good football team, South Oak Cliff. But the biggest thing is that the kids were successful, and they got better week by week and year by year. So we consider it a good year. Now we do see a lot of little things we've got to get better at. We've got to start taking care of little things, and we started on that back the first week of December, right after we got beat over the Thanksgiving holidays.
Let me ask you, you mentioned it, Coach, you guys are presently riding, I don't know if you're aware of this, 103 straight district wins, 103 and counting. Is that something, I'll just put it like this. How much pride do you take in something like this? That's the longest streak we've ever seen in UIL 11-man Texas high school football history. How much pride do you take in the fact that you guys haven't lost a district game in since 2000 and, forever?
Well, it is neat for the school, but that part of it, those things don't mean anything really. what's important is that these kids go out and have a successful year, and not put a lot of pressure on them about the district win streak and all that stuff. That is fun to read in the newspaper and see people talk about on the phone, but it's not something we talk about as a football team or a football staff.
He's Tim Buchanan. He is the head coach of the Aledo Bearcats. Coach, we appreciate your time on a hectic morning. I know it's always exciting whenever you find out the new realignments, and we certainly appreciate you taking a little bit of time, and looking forward to seeing your Bearcats in the fall.
Thanks, Tep.
There he goes, Tim Buchanan, the head coach of the Aledo Bearcats. Good man, and really do appreciate him taking some time, because look, this is also all these coaches. We're going to be joined by Brian Gibson of Wink here in just a moment. All of these coaches, this is a hectic time for them. Mm-hmm. Like, they are.
When I picked up, to peel back the curtain there for a second, when I picked up the phone, I was like, "Hey, Coach, it's Ashley Pickle with Dave Campbell's." I said, "How are you?" He goes, "Just calling, trying to put together a schedule." Right. Right. He's like, "I'm taking a break for you."
Yeah. While we're here yammering on about, like, man, can you believe this district and things like that, coaches are like, okay, we have to put together a schedule and figure it out. And, like, when we talk about Aledo going into a district with the Colony, mm-hmm. right? I don't know if Coach Buchanan has ever talked with folks from the Colony. Sure. You know what I mean? Sure. Like, he's never really had to. Yeah. And so as a result, it's like, that's one thing that you have to keep in mind. This is a very hectic moment mm-hmm. here, literally at 9:40 a.m. For these programs.
And even more so because of the fact that they can't do it in person right now. Yeah. Right? Like, so much of that's why I mentioned the RGV kind of being able to still have their realignment event, is because that's valuable to look somebody in the eye, shake their hand, and be like, hey, you got a week 3, you got a week 2, what are you open for? And now it's just kind of like everybody's playing phone tag. You're probably sending 6 messages saying we need a week 3 out to whoever, and seeing who gets back to you, and kind of relaying all. It's kind of a madhouse, because that's kind of one of the charms of those in-person events, is you can go on a whiteboard and just be like, boop, here's the date we need. So.
Yeah, I mean, we were supposed to tell you guys, we've talked about this, we were supposed to be in Birdville. Let's go to the phone line right now. We're joined on the phone by the head coach of the Wink Wildcats. Coach Brian Gibson joins us. Coach, we certainly appreciate you making a little bit of time in a hectic morning. I'm interested in your instant reaction to what we've seen for your Wildcats.
At first, I was pretty shocked. To be honest, I didn't really anticipate us going Region 2. We were there a couple of years ago when I first got to Wink. It creates some long travel, getting all the way up to Munster. Playing those guys halfway, and but it's definitely a loaded region. We're pretty excited about that competition. Our district is rather large. Haven't been in a large district in a while, so it's going to make for some interesting matchups.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned that you guys. For those who don't know, you guys are way out west, kind of north of Monahans. I look at this and I go, man, that's a lot of travel. But from your perspective, it kind of feels like every game is a lot of travel. Does that impact your team at all, or is it just stay as she goes, another bus ride?
For us, it's pretty much just another bus ride. We're very fortunate. Our school district takes good care of us. We travel well, and our kids have adapted well. So I mean, they understand what it means to get on a bus and drive 2 or 3 hours just for a. We just went to Cristobal Tuesday night for a district basketball game. It's a 3.5 hour drive on Tuesday night, one way. So we're accustomed to it. Our kids have adapted, and they know how to travel.
Coach, you're adding 2 6-man newcomers in Water Valley and Sterling City. How, as a coach, do you prepare for that? A team coming up from 6-man to 11-man, and also another, I guess, a follow-up would be: have you had to do that before in 282?
I haven't ever done it before. I've never played teams that have just coming out of 6-man that I can remember. It's going to create some challenges. I know that as a coaching staff, they have their challenges, but for us, trying to get an idea of what their kids are going to be like, how they play, the tendencies from the past, all those things, makes it pretty tough. But and I know they've got a lot of challenges as far as, getting the field ready and things like that. But we're pretty excited about the competition in our district for sure.
Coach, let me ask you a little bit about going into 2022. This is the program that you guys are going to bring back the Built for Tough Player of the Year in 2A, and Cannon Gibson. Last time I saw you was when Cannon was getting that award. The expectations, it sure seemed like, have risen there at Wink. Regardless of district, does the message stay the same, or how are you going to address this with your players whenever you get back together with them?
Well, I think the goal still is the same. It doesn't matter, what region you're in. Eventually, you got to go through them all if you want to reach your ultimate goal. And so, being in a loaded region that we are, it does create more challenges throughout the playoffs. Every week you start running into them a lot earlier. But it doesn't change our mindset. Our goal is still the same. Our work ethic has got to still be the same. Our preparation has to be the same. So, I just don't. I think it just kind of throws some scheduling kinks in there that all of us didn't anticipate. I think that's the only really big change you have.
He's Brian Gibson. Coach, I know you've got a lot to do. We certainly appreciate you taking a little bit of time to talk with us. Go get back to work, Coach.
Always a pleasure.
All right. Thanks, Coach. There he goes, Brian Gibson, the head coach of the Wink Wildcats. He is
the district coordinator, he said, so he was like, kind of got a bit on my plate
here.
Yeah,
so we certainly
like, we'll get you in and out quick, Coach.
So we appreciate him taking a little bit of time there, and that's a start. Can we throw that graphic back up of Coach of the Wink district?
Yeah.
We mentioned this in our initial rundown that this is a team that is going from Region 1 to Region 2. They're joining McCamey. That's that Badger right there in the middle of them. They're joining them. They're adding in El Dorado from Region 2. They're coming in as well, they're coming from Region 4, I believe. They were in that kind of Concho Valley Region 4 part of Division 2, and then you're adding in teams like Water Valley and Sterling City who are moving up to the 11-man ranks. Maybe not by choice, you know what I mean? They would prefer to be playing 6-man football, but the numbers require them to go up. That is a large swath of travel, but as Coach mentioned, that doesn't really faze them. But it is just a mishmash of teams that when you take a look at the way that things shook out, it makes sense in the map, but it is a bit jarring, I think, when you consider where they're going, where they're coming from to where they're going now. These are programs that they are not only they haven't seen in a while, but some of them they've never seen ever because they've been playing 6-man football.
Right, and that was a good point that he mentioned about those staffs having kind of a challenge, too, right? Because they got to field a team, they got to figure out kind of their style of what they're going to be playing in 11-man, which is why I was curious about, has that happened to him in D2 before? Because of course it'd be in 2A D2 where if anybody would have experience, it'd be somebody dealing with that kind of issue. And he said no, and it's a good point where it's like, I guess he'll eventually have film on them, right, after they play a couple games. But the challenge right now is for them is like trying to figure out, all right, what are we going to run?
Right. Well, and is there an amount of scheme in 6-man that you can turn around and use to your advantage in 11-man that people, as an 11-man program, their defense is something that they haven't seen before like that?
Well, and like, for example, Water Valley currently has a coaching opening. They don't have a coach. They don't, at least from what we understand, they don't have a coach right now. Coach Hayes. I believe, Coach Hayes is a longtime 6-man coach, and I think that he looked at this and goes, you know what, I think I want to stay in the 6-man world, which is not rare.
No, not at all.
In the same way that you've seen coaches that when they drop from 11-man to 6-man, it goes, you know what, I'm an 11-man coach. So that's another wrinkle to add into this. In this is that, they're going to be dealing with a new coach there at Water Valley, which is a perennial kind of power there in the 6-man ranks. It's big doings. West Texas is always kind of like, because of just the area between places, you're going to get these big hexagons or octagons or whatever you call them. But this is, the UIL, we've mentioned it, they've just got to make everything fit. They're not even, as far as West Texas is concerned, I believe somebody threw this into the comments, but Anthony, which is the farthest west team in the state of Texas, I believe they're in with Christoval in 2A Division 1. That is about a 6-hour drive. You know what I mean? That's a
It's
long
wild.
drive.
Well, and that's the thing. I appreciate the fact that he said that, because I know from growing up in a small town that, yes, we were used to making 2.5-hour drives on a Tuesday night to go play a basketball game, that type of thing. And so the one thing that I do think that coaches that have to make those drives will say, and I think we heard it from some of the El Paso teams, like Coach Lopez out there when they went far, it was one of those things that, you know what, in the long run of things, if you can do well and make it to the playoffs, that does nothing but benefit you, because then when in the random times in the playoffs where you've got to drive 5 hours to meet up with a DFW team, well, guess what? You're used to it at that point.
Right.
Yeah, you're used to doing that. And, you know, some other kind of long drives. Port Neches Groves to Fort Bend Marshall. They are new, and you may think, oh, well, okay. If you're not from down there in that part of the world, you may think, those are two greater Houston, Port Neches Groves, not really in Houston, but like, greater areas. That's a 2-hour drive, which by major metro areas is very, like standards, is very long.
Well, and we talked about that with the RGV too, as well. We were like, will they finally team up with the Laredos, or will they finally team up with some Corpus Christi schools or San Antonio? But you look and you think, oh yeah, South Texas, all right there, not a big deal. 2 hours, either way, no matter which direction you're going there. So it's interesting to see that.
And you're crossing through. I mean, like when you mentioned the Port Neches Groves, you're crossing through Houston.
Yeah,
like that's like anytime you're crossing
Death,
through a
taxes,
metroplex.
I-45.
Right, exactly. You're crossing through a metroplex.
I want you to think about, especially with a 7:30 kick, okay, on a Friday night. When are you driving through Houston?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Time to load the buses at noon.
Exactly right. Like
Yeah,
those are the types of things that
you hit at 3 o'clock and you're still backed up in traffic for the next 2 hours.
Well, and Step mentioned it. Step mentioned McKinney North being lumped into District 7-5A Division 1 with Tyler Longview. That's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But Lufkin? That's a 3.5-hour drive from
McKinney North.
McKinney to Lufkin. That is a huge that's huge doings. There's other thing. Andrews to Brownwood. He mentioned
Brownwood.
That's a 4-hour drive.
Yeah.
But the thing about Fort Bend Marshall and that particular one in particular, and McKinney North to a certain extent as well, those are programs that, unlike Wink, are not necessarily used to traveling.
True.
They're not used to those long bus rides. They're not used to that. How do they handle that going forward? That'll be certainly something to keep an eye on. This is the Dave Campbell's Texas Football UIL Realignment Special, brought to you by our friends at Hometown Ticketing. Go to hometownticketing.com. Our friends there, thanks for being the sponsor of the 2021 or 2022, UIL Realignment Special here on Texas Football Today. The alignments are up on texasfootball.com if you want to go see where your team landed. We'll, of course, have wall-to-wall coverage on texasfootball.com throughout the course of the day, throughout the course of the week, throughout the course of the month. Forever. We're just going to keep covering this because it's a big data dump, right? There's a ton to sort through here, and teams are learning their fates. Teams are figuring out exactly what it's going to look like. We're very excited to see how everything shakes out. We now have the roadmap for what Texas high school football is going to look like for the next 2 years. Pickle, let's go to the hotline. Got another big time guest. Let's go south to Rockport to talk with the head coach of the Rockport Fulton Pirates. It's Coach Jay Seibert joining us. Coach, we certainly appreciate your time. The question I've been asking everybody as they've hopped on with us is, can we get your initial reaction to when you found out you were drawn into your district?
I guess I was excited. You're nervous when you come down there, and then really any scenario that people put out there, they were all tough, and but it kind of puts us back in the old district that we were in before the hurricane hit Rockport. We're back with Lavernia and Beeville and Pleasanton. That's my first 4 years in Rockport. That was kind of the base of our district. I guess it's just Port Lavaca will be in there as well. But we're excited. It's teams we played quite a few times in the last few years. So it'll be a good district, and we're looking forward to it.
You mentioned the the hurricane and kind of the population drop that happened there in Rockport. It's obviously the city's been rebuilt. It's gorgeous down there. I am interested in how you've maybe seen this. You've been there for a lot. I'm interested in how you've seen this program change over the course of your tenure there.
Well, probably the biggest change in the last 8 years is. Our fans and our kids, they expect to win. They expect to compete for a district championship, and they expect to. They're upset if we're not playing on Thanksgiving holidays. So, and before, they were just kind of happy to compete, and it's the standard of what we expect is to win. And the hurricane knocked us back a little bit, but the core of the community stayed there, and our kids were there, and we played 4A Division II for the last 4 years. and we're back to Division One, and it's probably the size of our town, the school. It's where we belong, and we're happy to be there.
You talked a little bit about the standard, 10-2 in 2021, first 10-win season since 2000. What was so special about last year?
We had a great group of seniors. We just kind of all came together and we played really well. And we were able to, our offense put up some big numbers, and we played solid defense, and we got tons of turnovers. And we had a bunch of big games. We were upset. We fell out in the second round to Cuero, but they were a really good football team. And I wish we could have played someone else. That doesn't work that way. You got to play, and but they were a good team. But it was a great year. Anytime you get 10 wins, it wasn't. In the last 8 years, we've been to the second round of the playoffs or further. Every year. So it's like I said, it's kind of expectation. That's where we belong, and our kids are working their tail off to make sure we stay there.
We've talked with a couple of coaches here today, and we've kind of asked them, we know it's busy for you guys. Can you kind of walk, for folks who are listening, what is today like? What has the last, hour and 20 minutes of your life been like before you got on and talked with us Yahoos?
Well, one, you're nervous because, it is our livelihood, and they can put you in a district where it hurts your livelihood. But, so you're nervous about. And the anticipation's fun, and you're in there with a group of 50 coaches that are all just as nervous as you, and then as soon as it's out, everyone's scrambling trying to fill their preseason schedule, and it's like an auction. People are, I got 4, I got week 3, and a couple of people say they have a week 4, and you say you have a week 4, and you look at them, you think, I don't really want to play you. So sometimes so you have to figure out and close out fast, because if you get stuck if it's noon today and you still have some openings, it becomes very hard to fill those preseason games, and you really don't want to travel across the state. So that's the crazy part is the preseason. The district you really can't do nothing about. When you get that, but the preseason games are the ones that it feels like you're kind of you're like hustling to make sure you get good games, and we don't have to travel too far, and you set up before you're ready for district. You don't want to have an easy schedule. You don't want to have a really hard one. You want one that's competitive, that gets your kids ready for district. Yeah,
Coach, you mentioned the size of the district. We talked a little bit about this, but you guys land in a 6-team district, so 5 district games. Is there an ideal number of teams you'd like in your district, or is it just kind of whatever we get, we'll fill out the schedule regardless?
Well, I love when there's an 8-team district. I like playing 3 preseason games and then getting into the battle, and sometimes when you're in these 5 and 6-team districts, it's quite a lot. It's a lot of preseason games, and it kind of, there's, we did it 3 and 4 years ago where we were in a 16 district, and you play those 5 preseason games, and yes, your kids want to win, you want to win, but you're also, by that point, you're ready to go, and you're ready to play meaningful games that that control your destiny a little bit.
And finally, Coach, you mentioned this off the top, but you are you're kind of reviving some rivalries. Beeville Jones, the program you've got a lot of history with. Calhoun, you've played in the past. Pleasanton, teams like that. I'm interested from your perspective. I know kids will get fired up for seeing teams like that, but from your perspective, how do you feel about getting in a district with teams you're familiar with?
Yeah, I'm good friends with Coach Liska at Pleasanton. I'm good friends with Coach Whitaker at Fort Lavaca. That'll be good. Those will be some fun games. We played Lavernia 6 times. My first 6 years, we played them 6 times. In that span, and so that was always it was a competitive game, and they probably got the better of us in those 6 years, but kind of need to fire back and win some of those. But it should be a great district, and and Coach Sosa at Beeville is he's in the same coaching family as me, kind of. So it's someone I kind of look up to, and anytime you get the chance to play someone that kind of in your coaching tree, it's always exciting because you want to beat them. So it makes it a good time.
Finally, Coach, we know there's one on every staff. There's one realignment dork on every staff who goes and they've got the maps and they've got the pins and they've got the spreadsheets and things like that. Who is the one on your staff that is who's got the microscope out and is trying to plot out what the district alignment is going to look like?
Well, my offensive coordinator, Coach Gutton, and he doesn't really do it with a map. He has like a notebook that he scribbles all in. He writes all these stuff. He writes all this stuff up, and and he was wrong.
Perfect. He's Jay Seibert. He's the head coach of the Rockport Fulton Pirates, drawn in District 15 4A Division I. Coach, we really appreciate your time. Thanks so much for hopping on with us on a hectic morning, and we look forward to seeing your Pirates in the fall.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. There he goes, Jay Seibert, head coach, Rockport Fulton. Boy, you've covered the state. West, south, north.
There you go.
That's what we do around these parts.
Classifications. 282.
282, 481, 581.
Yeah.
Not bad. Not bad.
Again, that's what we do around here.
Oh, we're trying. We're trying. All right. So the alignments are up on TexasFootball.com. We've got a lot more coming up on the site, coming up over the course of the day. Step is furiously writing right now. Step has been kid in a candy store. This is his favorite.
Oh, this is his Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, today is his Super Bowl.
Digging through the data. And a lot to dive through. We're going to have a ton of stuff on TexasFootball.com. Later, we'll have an episode of Tep and Step, our premium high school football podcast, where we go way in depth on realignment, so you will not want to miss that. A ton to get into, a ton to break down, but that's what we do here. We got a whole off season to do it. It's the biggest day of the Texas high school football calendar. We appreciate our friends at Hometown Ticketing for sponsoring today's UIL realignment coverage. Ish, some final thoughts from you. What are your big takeaways? What is going to stick with you? What are you going to go to bed tonight thinking about?
So first, I mean, everybody knows I follow Manor, and so I
wave the flag.
Usually that's where my eyes go first. Is always trying to figure out where Manor's, especially since I grew up in Manor was 3A, 4A, and so I was familiar with those kind of east of 35 teams, and so ever since they've moved up, and of course now moved up to 6A, back up to 6A, I should say. I was curious, okay, where do they fall as far as Central Texas goes in that North Austin region? Getting thrown to Round Rock was not something I really anticipated. So they're with District 25 with Austin Vandergrift, which is going to be obviously a huge challenge. Vista Ridge, Round Rock, Cedar Ridge, Round Rock High, McNeil, Stony Point, Westwood. Different schools that I'm not used to seeing with Manor and play Manor, and I'm talking to some of the guys on the staff there, and it's like it's an interesting challenge, especially with Vandergrift. I think you'll probably put Vandergrift ahead of them, but them with Vandergrift are going to be some of the favorites in that district. But regardless, just a nice little mix-up of just a nice little change of scenery, I should say.
By the way, if you're interested, Lano got a pretty good draw too.
Yeah. Sting them.
Yeah, that's going to be that's
that
going
is
to be one of the favorites.
They should be.
They'll
They
be
should
a
come up
favorite
in a
in
favorite
4.
in Region 4. Sting them.
Pickle. Some final thoughts from you on what we've seen this morning.
I would say that I am super interested in 5AD1, and we typically say that we're interested in 5AD1, but like we talked about, that power nexus in the left side of the bracket has kind of moved up a little bit, so it's not the same thing that we've gotten so used to seeing over and over again. And then the other side of that District 11, when you have, like we talked about it multiple times, but the College Station, the Cedar Park, like I think that is going to be an absolute blast. And the thought of maybe having a state champion come out of Region 1 and Region 3 is something that we haven't even honestly like, you're lying if you say that you've considered that at all from the past couple of years.
Yeah, exactly. Power Region 2 has been the power nexus there. Now let's remember, Peyto was the state champion from Region 3 last year.
Right.
But that was, obviously they took them to the wire.
Right. I'm saying, when you take a look at that, you're going, it's. I mean, we can go back to bracketology where we're circling this and going, if the champion doesn't come out of here, someone really lit it up in the playoffs, and that's what they did.
Exactly,
but I'm very excited for 5A Division 1.
Yeah, I think that you look at power districts. I think it's easy to start salivating over some really fun district matchups.
Yes.
Lorena and Franklin.
China Springs, Stephenville, Shiner Refugio in district. We are. It's one of those things that, like, Shiner Refugio is a perfect example. We talk about we talked about before the year. Oh, we're waiting for that to be the regional final. We're waiting for that to regional final. We might get it in week 8.
Yeah, now it's like it's comparative to like Munster Windthorst.
Yes.
How we are so used to seeing them play twice. They play in week 8 or 9, and then we see them again in the regional finals.
Well, like, I'm curious to see, like, how do you...
By the way, Munster and Lindsay back in the same district this year.
Beautiful.
So,
fun. I'm curious to see, how do you handle that game? Because typically, I mentioned that three-way dance. It used to be with Mason, when Mason was thrown in there, and Refugio and Shiner. You kind of like... It's kind of like you kind of look at them from afar for the whole season. It's like, all right, what's kind of going on over there? And now, like, what do you hide in the district game? Because you're gonna see each other in the playoffs.
Well,
like, do you hide anything, or do you just is the district title that important, getting that number 1 seeding in that district? Is it that important that you just throw all of it out in that one district game and then, kind of just see what happens in the rematch? Or is there like, oh, we're going to see them again. So
well, yeah, and Timpson's over there licking their chops at that. Shout out to Hudson and his favorite Bears over there. Yeah. But they're looking going, oh, we're about to get a textbook of what this looks like before we play either of them,
You'll get a full week ahead of, or weeks ahead of it instead of the week before.
The week before, yeah.
Big doings. The UIL realignment is a massive day, and coaches right now are scrambling right now. We appreciate what they do, and we appreciate them. The ones that hopped on with us, Tim Buchanan at Aledo, Jay Seibert at Rockport Fulton, and Brian Gibson at Wink, taking a little bit of time out of their busy day. So there it is. We'll, of course, have wall-to-wall coverage of UIL realignment at TexasFootball.com, so make sure you check that out. That's going to do it for us. Thanks for spending a little bit. Woo. Glad I'm just now forgetting
an hour in. It's okay.
20 minutes in. Thanks for spending a little bit of your day with us. Follow us on Twitter at DCTF. Like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Dave Campbell's. Follow us on Instagram, Instagram.com/Dave Campbell's. And, of course, see us at TexasFootball.com. For Ashley Pickle and Ishmael Johnson, I'm Greg Tepper. Vince Young, please be your Player of the Year trophy. We'll see you later on Texas Football Today.